Hi, my name is Miss Newlove and I'm one of the hosts of a brand new show brought to you by Besstel Foundation.
The Wellbeing Show is to help reach BAME families, to help with mental health, support and emotional needs. The Wellbeing Show streams live every Tuesday at 8 to 9 p.m. on Diversity Radio via Facebook, YouTube and Mixcloud. So tell your family and friends to tune in as we discuss topics that affect our well-being. The Wellbeing Show is proudly sponsored by NHS South London and Maudsley, the National Lottery Community Fund, and partnered with Real Insight, Base, 60 Seconds Creative Studio, and GoalDiggers Talk Show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Besstel Foundation, The Wellbeing Show, live on Diversity Radio on Facebook. And as usual, I'm joined with my co-host, Jacqui Obeng. Jacqui, are you with me today?
Yes, I'm here with you today. How are you, Miss Nina?
And as you can see, we're in the comfort of our own homes once again. We're just showing you the power of technology and, doing it a different way. So today's topic is about children's mental health. And we're focusing on anxiety and depression. It was Children's Mental Health Week last week. So as it's half term, hopefully some of you are with your children, you're in the spirit of motherhood, even though motherhood should be every day, but your attention's more drawn to your children, especially times like this when they're at home. We thought it would be a good idea to discuss this specific topic. We've been focusing a lot on adults and well-being and all that kind of stuff from last year to now. And now it's time for us to, focus on the young ones, because depression and anxiety does start within children as young as 3 years old. Mm. And I found that quite interesting as I was doing my reading this week, that, sometimes we're there shouting at our children, screaming at our children, but, they also could be going through things themselves. Sometimes it's not just that they're throwing tantrums or that they're ill. There could actually be, psychological things that are going on with them. And it could be for various reasons, what they're seeing in the home, peer pressure, it could be so many things, what their friends are saying to them outside, what they're seeing and, how they see themselves. And, things like that. So that's why we thought it was very important to start discussing mental health around children. And as Jacqui is our teacher, even though she doesn't deal with them as young as 3 years old, she still does come across, I'm sure you've experienced and seen stuff. And, we've spoken about safeguarding and all those kind of things. So today's show is all about children's mental health. And I think we're going to continue talking about children's mental health over the next few months, but today we're just going to focus on anxiety and depression. So I'll hand it over to my amazing co-host and entrepreneur, CEO of Base. But before she starts talking, we just have to acknowledge and thank our sponsors and partners, who are South London and Maudsley NHS Trust, the National Lottery Community Fund. Our partners are the Real Insight Consultant, Diversity Radio. We're live on Diversity Radio now. Please share this, share for us. It's important that we, spread this show that we're doing, the Wellbeing Show, and get it out there and get people interacting with the show. So please share with your family and friends on your various social media platforms. 60 Seconds Creative Studio, GoalDiggers Talk Show, which belongs to myself, and Base, Become a Successful Entrepreneur, which belongs to my amazing co-host, Jacqui Obeng.
Okay, so good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wellbeing Show. Today's the 15th of February. We had a fabulous Valentine's weekend. Hope everybody's gone.
You had a fabulous.
Gone back to our normal week. It was very busy, actually. We had Friday, we had a jam, Saturday, another jam, Sunday, another jam. And thankfully, it's half term. So we were just doing some resting. Some of us are lucky enough. Did you work today?
Yes, I did. So
right. So
I'm a teacher, unlike yourself. So
back to the what we're doing. So
yes.
again, we're representing Besstel Child and Adult Psychiatric Foundation. Besstel is a charitable organization registered both here and here, I mean in the UK and in Ghana. Their main aim is to address the stigma of mental health within the Black African minority ethnic community, which is the BAME, raising awareness, providing intervention, supporting our well-being through the entire community, including other communities in the UK and families in Ghana. We are a large team supporting families, foundation, and also in the UK. We normally travel annually to Ghana. Some of the team, not all of us, go to Ghana on the mental health week, mental health month, which is October, where alongside other professionals, NHS professionals or NHS trusts, where they provide medical support to hospitals, prison services, and also demonstrating awareness of mental health within the community. So Besstel is quite, a large foundation with different networks where they deliver these services to the public. So there we go. I've been told that the details will be flowing on our screens and the people that they can contact. We've got the website, Besstel. I don't know if it's on there. I don't see it on the screen right now. But BesstelFoundation.org, Facebook is Besstel Foundation, Instagram is Besstel CAF, and Twitter is Besstel CAF as well. For further assistance, you can contact Hilda and Marian, and the numbers will be coming onto the screen a bit later. So I'll leave it over to you to give us the acknowledgement so we can quickly get into our program.
Yes, we're gonna, keep it snappy, and like Jacqui said, the details for our viewers, yourselves, to contact members of our team will be going across the bottom of the screen throughout the show, and also our social media handles. Follow us, interact with us. So we're going to acknowledge our team. And first of all, we'd like to acknowledge Peter Hassler, who is the patron for Besstel Foundation. He's been working with Besstel for about 5 years now. He is a former NHS Director for Nursing. Yes, he's a former Director for Nursing, and he's doing a lot right now. Handling Besstel is a lot. Our CEO, Mrs. Stella Ajamai, who is a mental health specialist nurse, a big, thank you. And I don't even know what to say about Stella. She's just an amazing person, and it's because of her that all this is happening. So we thank you, Stella. Nashuru Momori, who is the CEO of Diversity Radio, and he's the Real Insight consultant. He's literally Stella's right-hand man. So we thank you so much, Nash, for helping us and contributing, and all the work that you do in Ghana is amazing. Thank you so much. Dr. Shusham Gupta, who's a patron as well, thank you. Dr. Julia Chapman, who is a psychiatrist. Mrs. Lauren Cullingham, who is a psychologist. Dr. Justina Shapastwaska, I always pronounce her name wrong. The day she meets me, she's going to be like, sorry, Justina. She's a consultant psychiatrist. And lastly, George, who is our country coordinator in Ghana, and he does an amazing job when the team are out there. He puts everything together, and he does an amazing job. So thank you so much, George. We're honoring you today, actually, because you do a lot behind the scenes. So today's show, like we said, is all about anxiety and depression in children, and we're going to kick off right now. Just want to acknowledge those who have tuned in with us. So Rosemary, thank you. She said, good evening, ladies. Thank you for tuning in.
Rosemary's in
The
today in the
Wellbeing
house.
Show. Yeah. So you're not going to be all over her saying that she doesn't support. She's always here.
Well done, Rosemary. Viva.
So all last week it was Children's Mental Health Week, as I mentioned before, and today we just want to, talk about the importance of children and young people's mental health. Now it's the 8th year that Children's Mental Health Week has been going on. I'm sure a lot of us didn't even know that existed.
Exactly.
So that's why we're trying to bring the awareness to you guys, especially in the BAME community. We don't like to talk about these things. We don't even like to talk about mental health issues as it is, let alone discussing mental health, within our children. It's like a taboo, isn't it? But
it's quite difficult.
To accept that children can also have mental health issues. So that's why we're talking about this today. So it's very important that you share this with your family and friends, because we all have children. If we don't have children, we have godchildren, we have nieces, we have nephews, we have neighbors, So yes, and 1 in 6 children and young people have a diagnosable mental health problem. And many more struggle with challenges from bullying to bereavement. So as I was saying before, there's so much pressure that children are under. Like, for instance, my son's doing his GCSEs and he's doing a lot of studying, and it's made me think about when I was doing my GCSEs and how much pressure I was under and how stressed I was. And I couldn't even share that with my mum.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell her how stressed I was, because it's very stressful when you have to study like how many subjects at one time. You
need to read.
Adult education is slightly different because you're focused on one topic or topics surrounding one, thing. But children have to study history, maths, English, science, so many different things. Then they're thinking about their friends and then how to maintain their reputation. And then some of them are focused on sports. Imagine the ones that also have hobbies.
Yeah.
And then they have to do things at home. We put a lot of pressure on our children, especially, I can't speak for other races, but I know I can speak from experience as a young Black African woman growing up as an African. My mum used to send me to like Sainsbury's. I used to walk like an hour and a half, just to go do shopping for her. And, there's some pressures that they used to put on us as children that probably they didn't realize. They're putting certain pressures on us, and we already have our own things that we can't even tell them about. You have your secret boyfriend, and then you have your friends that you're falling out with, and you're trying to do your hair. Then you have to look good to go to school, and you've started your period. And you're going through so many things as a young woman, and you can't talk to your parents about it. And then even if you're depressed, I used to have a lot of anxiety when I was young. And at that time, I didn't even know it was anxiety.
Yeah.
And social media wasn't there. We wasn't aware of certain things. So we'd be going through all these things. We don't even know what's going on.
They don't know these things. And that's why Besstel, being a, mental health foundation, we provide these, these kind of services to the community. We need to let them be aware of what we do. For example, I've got the insight in the school where we can help the young people to cope with exam strategies so that they can rely on one another. Or if they've got any, concerns, they can talk to us about it and we can help them ease, that stress or whatever they're suffering from. Also, if it's turning into a clinical problem or a medical problem, Besstel has got that support there as well. Because she, obviously, Stella is in that services. Marianne as well is in that services. You've got Peter, who was a director. We've got psychologists, which you just mentioned. We've got all of these professionals as a network of Besstel. And that's why we want the community to know that, if your child is facing some sort of difficulty, it's basically a mental health issue, because we face it every single day. So they shouldn't be afraid to highlight these issues, because we're used to screaming at our children, used to think that they can cope by themselves. We allow them to let them get on with it. But, talking to them ease up any, misconceptions that they're having about how to deal with, for example, their mock that just went past. Do you see what I mean? So all those services are there. So I'll briefly go through what we offer: different types of mental services, health services, counseling services for young people, also in schools, experts training, and resources as well. We can obviously provide them resources for them to help. So according to research, children in the classroom do suffer a lot of mental health problems. And the reason I picked on the anxiety and depression, we experience it every day without realizing it. Once you can't sleep, it's an anxiety straight away. You're worried about the next day. So there's a likelihood that there's some sort of percentage of children suffering and they need the help. So we want the community to tap into our services. We are pleading because we need to grow together. So the main theme of the children's mental health is growing together, helping one another, listening to our young people. Where do they need the help? They shouldn't be suffering by themselves, thinking of how they're going to get over that problem. And that alone brings a lot of anxiety. So, as you said, I need to just remind people that we are not obviously clinical professionals. We are the talk show hosts for the well-being. The numbers again will be on the screen if you need to speak with any of these professionals about your child issue. It's not a problem, it's just an issue, a concern about. If it's a school problem, we can deal with it. If it's a medical problem, then it has to be referred to the professionals, the psychologists, the mental health specialists. And therefore we're there to support, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
So as Jacqui said, the numbers are going across the screen. If you feel like, anything we're saying is triggering any kind of, I don't know, like we're going to talk about some examples. So as we're speaking about them, you might be able to relate a situation that's going on in the home or to your children to them. The numbers are going on the screen and you'll be able to get assistance or referrals. As Jacqui said, we're just, bringing the awareness today. And, I'm very happy that we're doing this because it's something that's quite close to me because I have teenagers. So I do notice things and I'm very close to my children and we speak about these things. And it's very important that, you speak to your children about everything, especially as they're going through adolescence, and puberty, especially, peer pressure. We're going to cover all these things. So,
so I'll quickly go through it so we can spend time on these areas, because normally there's a couple of signs and symptoms where children fall into these categories. So I'll go through them one by one. There's one called generalized anxiety disorder, which the initial is GAD, experiencing regular or uncontrollable worries about the many things in everyday life. So everyday life, what do these young people worry about?
A lot of things.
That's it.
I mean, I think
in school, they're normally little bullies. So we'll use the school, for example, because that's what they go to every day. Yeah. So maybe they're threatening somebody's, bullying them slightly, taking their lunch away from them, or probably screaming at them, or doesn't like the teacher. It could be anything. They can't control it.
Yes.
Exactly. So when they fall under these, this is where the parent needs to step up. They need to talk to the child or maybe, to the teacher, report these kind of things.
And also from the home, children, young to teenage could be going through things at home that make them anxious. They could be experiencing, you know, problems with their parents, or being a witness to various things like we've covered, you know, domestic abuse, verbal abuse, you know, all different types of abuses that go on in the home. They could be going through, which would cause GAD.
Exactly.
Yes. So
And Marion just said on there, Marion said children worry about what they wear. That could be something. That's a really like a peer pressure kind of thing.
It's a
they
big
always
deal.
Need to look good.
It's a big deal. It's a very big deal because,
really
like
good.
I said, you have a daughter, you know, so
well, she's in uni now, so but then in secondary schools these things happens a lot, because you know when they're uni they're in big girls and they're doing their own thing, but in secondary schools they have to, you know, be looking good, have this favorite handbag, everybody's shopping at Zara or Fenwick or wherever.
They have to, and even down to the shoes, you know, the shoes. You know, wearing non-brand shoes to school causes a lot of you know, teasing and hairstyles. I mean, it's a lot of things. If we're going to go into it,
we're going to go where we won't fit. Yeah, it'll quite be a while. So these are symptoms of worrying. So generalized anxiety disorder. The second one is social anxiety, where extreme fear and anxiety triggered by social situations. So like gathering, workplaces, situations in which you have to talk to another person. So what sort of examples can we use in terms of young people?
I mean, Shari's made a good point about transitioning from primary school to secondary school.
Exactly. That could fall under social.
For children.
So for example, they've left the primary where there's all these little young people. Not all the classroom kids are going to the same secondary school.
Yes.
They're all being dispersed in different schools in the borough. And therefore, they've got this fear of transitioning, starting a new school. Sometimes it's quite interesting where you see these little kids come in and they're lost. They want to go to the toilet. They don't know where the toilet is. Oh, miss, please, can you show me? And you just start laughing because obviously they've just joined. They don't know where they're going. So that's sort of social anxiety.
And making new friends, you know.
Making new friends,
Making new friends. And then, you know, like I said, also going through stuff. I mean, a lot of children in care as well go through a lot of social anxiety because, you know, they're already having anxiety in the home or in their care homes, you know, going through a lot of, you know, traumas, and then they have to go to school. So that's another, you know, thing as well. Children in care.
Children in care. I think obviously it's a whole different area for them.
Yes,
they're probably in some, you know, somebody's house or a carer's house. They'll have to, you know, be by themselves for them to get, you know, used to the surroundings. So that could be an anxiety for them until they get comfortable with this new carer, and then they can emerge their own self. How about panic disorder? Panic disorder, regular and frequent panics without a clear cause of trigger. So panic, having a panic anxiety or a panic attack. So it depends really what the child is panicking about. Can be social media. Do you remember we had we were going to talk about social media week of how there's a lot of bullying going on online. Yeah. That could be examples of panic disorders. Also, maybe a phobia in being in public as well. So all of these are talking therapies where we can talk to kids or try to talk to the teacher or whoever they're going.
The panic disorder is one thing, but we'll talk about phobias because phobia is quite an interesting area.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting area because it's different from what we're talking about. Because with phobias, a lot of, even yourself, if you go back to your childhood and remember, you must have had phobias. I had phobia of mice, which I still have. I had phobias of ghosts. I used to think that you know, I believed in ghosts, you know, and
you believed in ghosts?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I used to think like, you know, and when you're young, you have a wild imagination, especially when you watch certain things, like horror films used to trigger off my phobia, but I used to watch them. Do you understand?
I understand.
Yeah. And some, like a friend of mine has a phobia of grass. You'd be very surprised like how these phobias can psychologically take over you and really frighten you. And it's very serious. Like we're laughing, but
yes, it is a panic attack. Yeah.
The phobias are, I think a lot of young people do suffer from phobias. So we have to really take that serious when our children,
for example,
they're scared of something.
In my experience, some of the kids, my children didn't have a lot of, phobia disorders, but I came into contact with kids who didn't like spiders. They jump when they see spiders, or there's bees running around, they'll start screaming, that sort of thing. So again, it's about the parents ensuring that they're safe from these things, because it could lead into something else. You see what I mean?
Yeah. So the reason like I'm really like on this phobia thing is because, like I said, we're from the African community, we're Ghanaian, we're African, we're Black. And when you tell your parents you have a phobia, they laugh. They find it, they find it funny, or they think it's spiritual. There's no in between. But we're trying to really, let our listeners know that when our children say they have a phobia, you need to take it seriously, because
of course
it's, it's a psychological thing.
Issue.
Yeah, it's a psychological thing.
Yeah.
And things can trigger it. Like, I was saying children can be depressed or have, like, from as young as 3, all these things we're discussing can happen.
Yes,
so from as young as the age of 3, a child can be watching, I don't even know what children watch these days on CBBS and all that, I'm lost. But anyway, they could be watching something that triggers their phobias. So you got to really watch what you've got to watch what your children watch. Does that make sense? On TV as well.
Yeah.
And see if it affects them psychologically and if it triggers off certain behavioral patterns. Because, for instance, what I can remember is like there was Teletubbies and Ben 10, I think, when my children were young, and Pokemon, that's it. So Pokemon, back in the day, I don't know if it's still popular now. I don't watch all those children stuff, but it used to, when I used to speak to other parents, it used to trigger off nightmares and things like that in children, And so, even though it's a cartoon, the way the cartoon is, it can psychologically have certain effects. So we've got to watch what our children watch if they're very young as well.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Very important.
The phobia.
Rosemary's just said on there, have a look. She's just said communication with your children is extremely important. Stella also said her son is big 6-foot man that has a serious phobia. He screams whenever he sees the tiniest spider, and I'm related. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So it could be insects.
Yeah.
It could be anything really. So we should just be aware about these things
and just like be sensitive to it, because if just because you're not scared of spiders or whatever, it doesn't mean, because I'm extremely scared of mice at my age. So
really?
Extremely. I can't stay in the house with a mouse. So
wow. Well, nobody can stay in the house with a mice.
Some people can, Some people.
Oh wow. With a mice.
Not that they can stay in the house, but it's a phobia I have, Some people just dislike them.
Yeah.
But, there's a difference between disliking something and having a phobia.
Having a phobia. Yeah.
So
we move on to post-traumatic stress disorder. So this was actually related to phobia, and it's a bit linked, really. So difficulties with anxiety associated with event experience as traumatic. So, when you talk about young people watching scary, horrible movies, and then they're traumatized by it. You see what I mean? So this causes flashbacks, nightmares, which can feel like you're reliving the fear and anxiety that you experienced during the actual event. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
so
and
it's something that we want the community to be aware of. That if it happens, it seems like they've actually been involved with something and it's flashing back to them.
Yes, and this kind of interrelates with our past programs because of abuse. You know, in our community, a lot of children have been abused and their parents are not aware of it. So it triggers off behaviors that you wouldn't understand why your children are behaving like that. So it's not only about the phobias, but it's also about what they're hiding from you, or what they've hidden from you. You know, because your child just can't be having nightmares every night for no reason. It comes from somewhere. There's a reason why you have nightmares.
And then again, they need to just communicate with them, isn't it?
Yes, it's about communicating with your children, and just watching your children's every step is very important. And having those conversations every day when they come home from school. How was their day? Because sometimes your child just storms through the door and they're not in a good mood, and you don't say nothing to them. Then they go to their room and you leave it at that. But you have to watch the mood of your child when they come home from school. It's very important.
It's very important. So you can, have that conversation. How was school today? How was those lessons? Were you productive? Is there anything that happened that you want to talk about? And you know what? When you go deep into having that conversation, that's when they come out to you and actually tell you. Otherwise, you wouldn't know.
And you as a parent, you have to create those conversations, because some of our some children that we know, they're quite vibrant, and they will come and tell you themselves, oh, I had a really stressful day today, or this happened at school and that happened at school. Everyone's children are different, so we just have to be very mindful of all these things as well.
All these things. Okay. How about obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD? That's quite common. Anxiety problems, which involves very interesting, involves repetitive thoughts, behavior, and urges. So, food, for example, kids wouldn't be communicating, and all we'll be doing will be feasting on food to satisfy that issue.
Yes.
Yeah. So and then obviously they become obese, and we're wondering what's happening. So that is something as well. Again, talking therapies, try and get involved with your children, try get them, as you said, we've done it before, sports, do walks with the kids, walk to the park, talk to them about the day. So it's something that we should know about. Some anxiety problems would be stress. Again, most of the time they're in school, unless they're on holidays with you, then you can deal with it personally. But in school, obviously, we've got the SND department that deals with kids that are experiencing all these anxieties. So it's quite easy for them to take over and deal with it. But then if they're in your care, then you need that extra help. Then obviously we're there, or the NHS, they've got the helpline there that can help. So you just need to be aware about these disorders. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the behaviors and the urges. They come from certain places, don't they? It's not just about, how can I say? Yes, like you said, it's something you have to look at, because okay, we're gonna talk about it. I don't want to go into it. The body, the BDD. I was gonna go into that.
The BDD. Do you want to go into the BDD?
No, I still want to focus on the compulsive disorders, because some people just think it's normal, for a child to have, even like being overly clean. It's good to be clean. I have that disorder, but in kids, when they're too like OCD, then there's definitely an issue there.
And an issue,
and urges as well. Yes, when it comes to like when you have children that like to fight a lot, or have the urge to hit other children, and have the urge to, you know, I'm sure you've seen that in schools when, you know, the kids that just like to fight. Where does that come from?
That's it. It's the same. It's the same thing.
Why do your children think it's good to be violent? You know, so I think from a professional aspect, I mean, when you're in the schools and you see these kind of behaviors, then it's quite like, okay, something's going on, because why does this child think it's okay to just hit? Even young kids, you know.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of young kids are quite violent. So it's either what they're watching, what they're seeing, it comes from somewhere.
It comes from somewhere.
We have to, as parents and as carers, you know, we have to watch what our children are doing, even up to teenage and adulthood. As once they're under your roof, you have to watch what they're doing. It's very important.
Very important.
Yeah. And it's an everyday thing. It's not just when you feel like it. It's not just
the one-off.
Motherhood or parenthood is not when you feel like it.
It's an ongoing thing.
It's something that you have to do every day. You know,
quite a huge task where you need to take care of yourself and also take care of these young people. Otherwise, they'll be falling into some sort of, you know,
and
depression.
And what parents, especially from our communities, you know, some of them don't focus on is spending time with their children.
Exactly.
Always giving their children to family and friends, or you know, it's
or they're left alone.
To spend quality time with your children and create that time in the week or the month to have time with them, whether you go to eat or, you know, even if it's in the home. You know, and that's where you ask them all these questions. How's life? What's going on? You need to know who your children's friends are.
Yeah.
That's very important as well, who they associate themselves with, you know, because all these things contribute to mental health issues. Like if you don't know what's going on in their life, you're not going to be able to identify their the behaviors, you know, and, you know, why they're stressed or why they have anxiety. Sometimes the anxiety and the stress, the depression, comes from their belief system. So, you know, what do you tell them? How do you talk to them? Because, do you understand? Because the same child that has the anxiety and the depression, maybe it's from you, the parent, because you make them feel like they're worthless, they're nothing. Oh, you're stupid, you're this, you're useless, you're this, you're that, you're this, you know, always
exactly,
you know, saying all these words to your children. Then obviously when they go to school or they're around their peers, then they remember those things and they think, I'm nothing. My mum said I'm useless.
Yeah.
My dad said I'm this. You know.
Yeah. Okay, I think that was quite detailed OCD there. Health anxiety involves obsession and compulsion related to illness, which is researching symptoms and checking your body to see, you know, if everything's all there. Do you see what I mean? So it's about focusing on your body a lot. Some people focus about, you know, weight losses, which, you know, turns them into being bulimic. Do you see what I mean? And that could be a problem.
Yes.
So this probably won't relate to children a lot. You see what I mean? But it will be one of the symptoms.
It's when the puberty starts, isn't it? When they start getting conscious of their body and
their bodies,
or even
therefore,
Or
so,
even,
for example, year 11 is year 12 or 13. That sort of young people, if they're, you know, being, as you said, in the puberty stages, having all these growth happening, they're extra conscious about themselves, and it could turn into an issue. Maybe eating disorders, or going to the gym a lot, or just being on a diet. Sorry?
My son started that.
He started that. Right. So it's something that the community needs to be aware of.
But I think, yes, definitely. I think when they're doing things excessively, because you have to encourage your children to be healthy.
Yeah.
But I think when they start taking it to another level, then that's where you have to think, okay, where's this behavior coming from? You know, why is it that you know, they've, or, you know, when you have your daughter and your son, you know, when they say they're fat and they're not fat, you know,
then that's
a
what it
health
is.
anxiety when they believe to be bigger than they are.
Also, Rosemary's made an interesting comment on there. When they lose their confidence, that's very important. They fall into this persona, and because they lost their confidence, they probably focus it elsewhere. And then depending on your child, what they're comfortable with, it could be online all the time, or it could be going to the park, running around all the time. Even though it's healthy, it's becoming an issue now. Do you see what I mean? Because they're doing it in a compulsive way. Right. So, you just need to monitor your child's behavior most of the time. Otherwise, you can lose them to different areas of these symptoms, really. Apart from losing weight, what else do you reckon?
What, with health anxiety?
Yeah. Probably,
I mean, if
being
your child
obsessed.
Even if, like, when your child actually does have a health issue, like they're asthmatic, or you know, like asthmatic children tend to have anxiety more, and you know, they get more, how can I say, like stressed, and the stress brings on the asthmatic attack. So panic attacks, all the stuff we've talked about. If your child has a health issue anyway, it can, you know, trigger it, especially asthmatic, you know, children. It triggers, they often tend to panic because they always think, I'm going to have an asthma attack, I'm going to faint, you know. And, you know, if you have a child who has epilepsy as well.
Exactly.
So if you have children that have these health issues, there's certain mental health, you know, like related things like anxiety and depression that can trigger off their actual health issues.
That's it. Exactly.
So it's quite broad. That itself is quite a broad.
It's a broad area, actually. It could be, as you're saying, being on medication. That could be an issue. Where
that's an interesting one as well, because
because there's a lot of kids with medical issues. Where you know, sometimes during teaching they will just stop you and they're conscious about their health. You see what I mean? I need to take their medication, and it causes them a lot. So you're not realizing it. They're sitting there stressed, and then all of a sudden they just want to take that medication that releases that stress or anxiety or whatever. So it happens a lot, which is something that has to be addressed.
So the last one, because we have to round up soon. It's been quite interesting conversation.
Very interesting. I don't think we have enough time.
No, I think we'll definitely.
But bear in mind, we've got about another 10 minutes. Remember?
So
about 10
we'll
minutes.
Definitely elaborate on this. Like, children with mental
so let's do the last one. Body and dysmorphic disorder, BDD, obsessions and compulsives relating to physical appearance. I think we've just linked it to the health anxiety, actually.
Yeah, that's quite an interesting one, especially now with this social media. And also, like I said, it goes back to what your parents tell you and childhood. You know, your uncle's always saying to you, oh, your breasts are big, your breasts are big, your breasts are big. So your bum is so big, your bum is so big, your bum. You know, we have to be honest, because we're talking about our community, isn't it? So we're talking about us, we're talking about our children, we're talking about our nieces and nephews, and
exactly
suffer from BDD. And we have to also watch our mouth,
of what we say to our people.
We say, like, you see your nephew, he's extremely tall and his feet are big. Wow, your feet are so big, isn't it? Why are your feet so big? You know, you can say that to a teenage boy and he would think, you know, my feet are so big, I'm so big. You'd be surprised that, you know, the power in the tongue, like the things that we say to the children that we know. And the children, even about hair. If we're going to talk about hair, that's a whole topic.
That's something long altogether. You know, I just wanted to say that, you know, these people that we normally watch on TV, these movie stars and celebrities, Beyonce, apparently she suffered from a lot of anxiety. So all these young people look up to these celebrities and these stars. We just want them to know that everybody has one mental health issue or another. Yes. So it could be, all these Kardashians people, cookies, cookie lions, isn't there? They were cookie lions.
The thing about Beyonce is quite an interesting one, because when you see her in interviews, you see her speak, you can tell that she has anxiety, because you can hear it in her voice. But it's so amazing how she can just switch and become Sasha Fierce and get on the stage and be a different person. So it just shows you that, we're all equal, we're all the same. Everybody has their problems and their stresses and their whatever. So the same person you want to look like and, want to bleach your skin to look like and have blonde hair to be like, that person has also got their own problems behind it.
And there's many others.
Being broke is the problem in life, but it's not, there's a lot more.
It's a lot more to it. So there we go. So we want to thank Stella.
Oh no, we want to because you mentioned Beyonce, but Robin Williams had depression, and I think
so Robin Williams I didn't want to talk about because these young people do not know him as much as he's too old.
I know him. I'm still young. I'm a big kid.
You're not in secondary school. But the key thing
The Rock is an interesting one because
who?
The Rock.
All right, The Rock.
Popular.
Yeah.
He suffered from depression.
The Rock and
is that Kendra Kardashian?
Yeah.
There's no Kendra Kardashian. You mean Kylie? Anyway, they're all K. So we don't even know. Let's just say all of them. I'm sure they're all depressed behind closed doors anyway and have anxiety because. Perfect example without talking too much of they've changed the way they look completely, and our kids look up to them and watch them, and they influence, society. They have a heavy influence over society. So
so the key is ensuring that you're having that relationship with that child, because anxiety and depression is quite difficult for you to see it, because these kids nowadays know how to isolate themselves. They do not talk to people, and so you might not see it, and it will turn into one illness or the other. But the key here is schools. There are loads of help. Besstel, we are here to help. If it's an exam problem, we can sort it. Implement strategies of how to tackle your exams. If it's peer pressure as well, we can deal with that. Or there are so many helplines. So do not leave it too late, And I thought we can demo a video just to show how children are talking about them being depressed. Did you get a chance to watch it?
Yes, I watched them both. So we're going to play.
Yeah, play one, the first, the kids explaining depression, the second one. The second link. But whilst Big Joe is sorting out the videos, I want to thank Rosemary, Marianne for joining, Stella, Shanti Brown. Sari joined. Sari joined today.
The hair thing is a big deal, isn't it? We're going to talk about
somebody talking about the hair.
Because we need to talk about the hair thing. I think we have to have a show on hair because it's a big deal and it affects your mental health.
Yes.
Losing your hair, all that. We're going to definitely
probably address hair in one of the segments coming soon. But be aware about these types of symptoms and how you can support your child to overcome these anxiety problems, because it does further on turns into an illness, and then all of a sudden they're off sick school and they're losing education because something is happening either in a household or in a school.
Yeah, because the truth is that all these major mental health issues like schizophrenia, bipolar, all those major mental health issues, they started off with these small issues as children. And do you get it?
Yes.
And they weren't dealt with, and whichever trauma or whatever triggers of these things have grown and grown and grown, then they grow into the bigger mental health issues. And that's what we're trying to create, the awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So that, you know, we tap into our children from a young age,
Mm-hmm.
notice that these things are, you know, they're coming, because they don't just bipolar, schizophrenia, it doesn't just come out of nowhere. It's built up from somewhere.
That's
you know? Yeah.
And feeling restless as well. If your child is always tired, you need to find out why. If they're always on edge, if they're always wounded, they're, you know, scratches here and there, something's happening. If they're being irritable, is it ready? All right, fabulous. So we'll let the video play. So I just want to go over
my life so far has been the first semester of sixth grade.
Understanding of everything.
You can feel sad, scared, angry. It's your brain that's sad, that's an anxiety.
Depression, it's not just like sadness, it's like a lot of things. It's stress and tiredness.
You could be stressed for like not really a good reason. You're just like overwhelming yourself.
When someone took my toy and didn't give it back even on Monday.
When my grandma's dog died, I felt sad.
His name was Snaggle. He died at like 15, I think. They had to put him down. We got to pet him a bit. I was pretty upset.
Like you have no energy when you're depressed and you're just like, don't want to do anything.
I make a mad face when I'm mad and angry. My breath gets really, really fast. My heart beats really fast.
I feel like my stomach starts hurting.
All I want to do is just forget all of this.
Play a game that they wanted to play.
Even if I don't like to play that game.
If it seemed like really serious, I'd like tell them a grown up.
Like just take a couple deep breaths.
I hugged a stuffed animal.
Squish a pillow like this, but you'd get kind of like a little more mad. I have this special book at home that helps me overcome my anxiety. They call worries bullies. They always say to lock up the worry in an imaginary box. I say cheer up.
Don't get too down on yourself because that's going to make everything worse.
Talk to people, like someone that you can trust, someone that will listen.
Tell somebody, because it's not going to get any better if you don't.
She always cuddles with me and she tells me everything's going to be okay.
Usually like snuggle me and like let us have a family movie night at nighttime. If she like notices I'm like kind of feeling down or something, she'll be like, you can talk to me or your dad or anybody or people like that about anything.
My parents, my grandparents, like you can talk to me whenever something's on your mind.
Mostly it's because kids don't tell their parents. They need to keep they need to tell them more about like what's going on in their life so they can know how to help you.
I feel like one of the most stressful parts of like my life so far has been the first semester of sixth grade.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, even watching that, just it says it all. And children go through a lot, you know.
They do.
They really go through a lot. When I even go back to my own childhood, I think you go through so much and you go through different stages, you know.
Yeah, and you couldn't believe what young people go through unless you talk to them. You'd be amazed.
Exactly.
The things they tell you, it's quite shocking, and you'll be wondering, wow, this little person is experiencing all these, symptoms.
And I mean, look at them. They were like they expressing themselves more than we would, like. So yes, I'm very happy that we've, done this show. And like I said, we're going to have more shows focusing on children's mental health. One topic we didn't cover that makes children anxious and depressed is, children that go through grief.
Right.
And it's something that happens a lot, has happened, and, will continue to happen in our community because according to our skin color, we die more than any other race, and especially during this season that we're coming out of.
Exactly.
This
that
pandemic.
actually falls under point 5, the post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes.
So for example, if there's lost a parent,
that really affects the mental health of our children. So
it does. And it takes a lot of time away from them because obviously they have to stay away from school. They're in a traumatic situation. They can't focus. The brain has been, traumatized. They can't take any content in. Again, anywhere they are. So as Stella said on there, reassurance, showing them some tender love and care always to the kids, to assure them that we're always there for them. Even though we're not super humans or super moms, we try to be there for these young people, building trusting relationships.
It's about just watching your children a bit more and interacting and communicating with them a bit more. Sad. Rosemary said, sad, this is why my daughter and I always bonded, so she was able to talk to me about anything. Never had that with my parents. Yeah, me too, Rosemary. So, you have to break that cycle,
Exactly.
Make sure you have that relationship with your children that you didn't have with your parents. So we have to.
It's quite an interesting topic. I'm glad that I chose this because last week we missed out because it was a really big thing within the community about children mental health. We always think that we adults suffer from mental health a lot, but the kids, they every single day they go through it. Even getting up in the morning, going to school, maybe missing the bus, meeting somebody they do not like on the bus. All of that is a bit of an issue or a worry to these young people. So we need to ensure that we are supporting our young kids. I'm going to quickly go through Besstel's aims and objectives and the vision and mission about what they do. Because remember that we're streaming live on Diversity Radio. I think we haven't mentioned that. It's the Wellbeing Show by Besstel Foundation, but it's definitely powered by Diversity Radio, and obviously supported by a whole lot of people. So the values are they reach to anybody who needs us, basically. We're independent and we are stronger in partnerships. As Ms. Liu Love, you talked about all the acknowledgements. Those are the partnerships that Besstel work along. We listen like we're listening now, and we make sure that we don't give up. Because if we give up, then obviously we can't overcome all these issues. So the mission is to support mental health well-being in UK and in Ghana through awareness of creation and education. It's like we're doing now. We're educating the community about all these signs and symptoms of mental well-being in these young people. We also provide support and organizations with medical skills, training, workshops, and all of these link support. So we do these seminars. We do all these workshops both here and in Ghana. So if you want to join us, it's a large organization. We're growing. We do need more professionals to join us
as well.
Because it's all about changing the stigma within the community. So the vision in the UK, actively working towards enhancing the awareness of the well-being, especially the level of inclusion between the BAME community due to the stigma. I think right now, due to the COVID in 2020, the stigma is probably reduced a little because the terminology mental health is now common. It's like an everyday word.
Yes, it is.
Whereas before 2020, to be quite honest, mental health wasn't a thing that we had to talk about. It was there, but we didn't have to deal with it.
And I think because more of us have experienced it because we were in isolation.
Exactly.
When you're isolated, you know, you have no choice but to.
Okay. Yeah. So in Ghana, the mental health institutions, again, they implement. So every October, as I said, every year, Mental Health Month, they go to Ghana. Some team of them go to Ghana to implement all these cares that they're set up in the UK in Ghana. So, for example, training, the workshops, and they're training professionals in Ghana as well with their expertise. So these are the visions, the aims for both Ghana and the UK. But we're planning something big for the whole West Africa. So we will try and raise some funds to do that. But that will be a different topic altogether. So, Ms. Nilab, I'll leave it over to you.
Yes, we have to round up quickly. Yeah. So just to say once again, as Jacqui always tells us, that we're not clinical professionals. Everything that we've spoken about today is just from our own research and our own experiences and our own opinions, but it's not medical advice. So in order to get medical advice, please contact Besstel Foundation. Before we close, we have to acknowledge our patron once again, Peter. Thank you so much. And Stella, our CEO, also our trustees, which I didn't mention before. Linda, Anne-Marie, Mainu, and Fendi Taylor. Also, Hilda and Miriam are both responsible for the catering and provisions of warm foods to various households, which put priceless smiles on the faces of the community.
Yeah, they do lovely jollof rice.
So we just want to say a special thank you to them. And also, finally, a big thank you to Andy Che, who is the head of Besstel's funding. We rarely mention him. He does tap into the shows, and he's very much a big part of Besstel. So thank you again to our sponsors, South London and Maudsley NHS Trust, and also the big lottery fund, the community fund by the big lottery. Big thank you to them and our partners, Base, GoalDiggers, 60 Seconds Creative Studio, and Real Insight, which is owned by Nash, who is, like I said, the CEO of Diversity Radio. A big thank you to everybody that supports Besstel. So we've got to go. Don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms, and also the numbers that you saw
on the screen.
Anything we've spoken about today, if you're concerned about your children, or you just don't know how to communicate with them, or there's an issue, just contact. You can contact any of those numbers whenever. The lines are always open. And thank you for tuning in. And you can still share this show with your family and friends, because it's always available on Diversity Radio's Facebook page. So thank you for tuning in. Okay. And we'll be back next Tuesday.
And thank you, Sari. Thank you, Stella. Thank you, Rosemary, Shanti. Everybody else that's the names I can see. Peter's there.
Thank you, Big Joe, especially
Big Joe. I know
our technician who makes all this happen.
Thank you, Big Joe. I'll see you on Thursday.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
By Besstel Foundation. The Wellbeing Show is to help reach BAME families, to help with mental health, support, and emotional needs. The Wellbeing Show streams live every Tuesday at 8 to 9 p.m. on Diversity Radio via Facebook, YouTube, and Mixcloud. So tell your family and friends to tune in as we discuss topics that affect our well-being. The Wellbeing Show is proudly sponsored by NHS South London and Maudsley, the National Lottery Community Fund, and partnered with Real Insight, Base, 60 Seconds Creative Studio, and GoalDiggers Talk Show.
Hi, my name is Miss Newlove, and I'm